Today is the first Sunday of Lent. I've chosen to reflect on the Old Testament reading for today because it's all about covenant, and covenant is about promise and hope. It talks about the covenant that God made with Noah when he came out of the ark. It's from the book of Genesis, chapter 9, verses 8 through 17. Then God said to Noah and to his sons with him, "As for me, I am establishing my covenant with you and with your descendants after you, and with every living creature that is with you, the birds, the domestic animals, and every animal on the earth with you, as many as came out of the ark. I establish my covenant with you, that never again shall all flesh be cut off by the waters of a flood, and never again shall there be a flood to destroy the earth." God said, "This is the sign of the covenant that I make between me and you and every living creature that is with you, for all future generations. I have set my bow in the clouds, and it shall be a sign of the covenant between me and the earth. When I bring clouds over the earth and the bow is seen in the clouds, I will remember my covenant that is between me and you and every living creature of all flesh. And the water shall never again become a flood to destroy all flesh. When the bow is in the clouds, I will see it and remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living creature of all flesh that is on the earth." God said to Noah, "This is the sign of the covenant that I have established between me and all flesh that is on the earth." The word of the Lord. Today, this Sunday at Trinity Cathedral, we will resume in-person worship. We haven't had services in person since November 1st, quite a while ago. And as we begin the season of Lent, I'm very mindful of the fact that the last time we had what we might call normal church was on the third Sunday of Lent last year. That was March 15th, our Celtic Sunday, and I remember that we went out with joy, at least, on that day. What does it mean that Lent has come around again and things are not normal? What does normal mean anymore? We would all like to return to what was, but how can we when we are such different people now? We have been through a lot. What does our faith tell us about who we are and make sense of all that we have been through? Well, for one thing, we know that we've missed being together and we have missed the Eucharist. We've missed Jesus in the Eucharist and Jesus present in our church community. We cling to hope, and hope is what we find in the passage that we just heard from the book of Genesis, in which God makes a covenant with Noah and all of his descendants. We're used to hearing covenant language in the church, and usually we hear about a covenant made with Abraham and his descendants. We also hear about the new covenant that came to us through Jesus Christ, but the covenant with Noah predates all of them. Note that this one is with all humankind. In the worldview of Genesis, humanity was destroyed at the great flood, except for those who were with Noah in the ark, and from them now all peoples will come. What's really remarkable is that God makes this covenant not just with human beings, but with all creation. It really is universal. God promises to never again destroy what is on the earth. One gets the impression that after all that destruction that God witnessed, he really relented. He destroyed the world that he so lovingly created and determined that he would never do that again. God knew the people would still sin and would still make him angry, so he gave himself a reminder, a bow in the clouds, the rainbow. And I just love that. I love it because I don't have to take all of the words of Genesis quite literally to experience the wonder of that desire of God. He wants so deeply to remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living creature of all flesh that is on the earth. You probably notice the repetition of language that's so characteristic of Genesis, and in this case it reinforces the depth of God's desire for all of us and for all of creation. And that desire persists even today. God continues to love us and continues to desire what is best for us. It may not seem that way sometimes, but I really do believe that much of our suffering comes from our own doing. Much of it we bring upon ourselves through our own personal actions or through our corporate greed or sins of carelessness, idolatry, seeking and worshiping that which is not God. And that's why I'm grateful when Lent comes around every year to encourage us to step back and reflect deeply on what we have done and what we have failed to do. We know that God continues to love us because Jesus said so. Jesus was sent to show us God's love. As another one of today's readings says from the first letter of Peter, Christ suffered for sins once for all in order to bring you to God. That promise is an everlasting covenant that cannot be broken by pandemic or isolation or even by grief. It began with Noah and was completed through Jesus Christ. All creation groans together, waiting for the final revelation of that salvation that came to us in Jesus. So take heart. Our faith tells us that what we see is not all that there is. Like the certainty of spring, and today it promises to actually get above freezing, spring is coming, there is also certainty that one day this pandemic we will see in the rear view mirror. We will all be back together again. We shall be changed, but God will still be with us as God always has been. God will remember the everlasting covenant he has made with every living creature of all flesh that is on the earth. May this season of Lent bring you new hope and new faith in Jesus Christ. God love you, God bless you, and may God continue to keep you safe in those ever-loving arms. Amen.